We've all heard the advice to be ourselves at work. It's easier said than done. In this episode, how we can actually move past some of that unhelpful self-talk so that we can show up better, faster. This is Coaching for Leaders, episode 762.
Produced by Innovate Learning, maximizing human potential.
Greetings to you from Orange County, California. This is Coaching for Leaders, and I'm your host, Dave Stachowiak. Leaders aren't born, they're made. And this weekly show helps you discover leadership wisdom through insightful conversations. One of the messages that I often hear from many folks who have inspired me over the years, and I try to pass along to others whenever possible, is two words: show up. Show up. And if we can, show up a little bit better, maybe a little bit faster than we have before. Today, a wonderful invitation for all of us to do that in a way that's genuine, that helps us to lead ourselves better so that we can do so much better for our teams and our organizations. And I'm so pleased to welcome someone who's going to help take us on that journey. I'm pleased to introduce Claude Silver. She is on a mission to revolutionize leadership, talent, and workplace culture. Claude is Chief Heart Officer at VaynerX and partners with CEO Gary Vaynerchuk to drive their success. She earned Campaign US's Female Frontier Award and Adweek's Changing the Game Award. And she's the author of the new book, Be Yourself at Work: The Groundbreaking Power of Showing Up, Standing Out, and Leading from the Heart. Claude, it's such a pleasure to meet you. How are you?
Dave, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I am great.
I have been thinking about your book all week, of course, knowing we were going to have this conversation. And I have a bit of a problem right now because I have a song in my head that I cannot get rid of because Taylor Swift came out with a new album not long ago. And while I am not a Swiftie myself, although I enjoy some of her music, our 11-year-old daughter is. And so every time we're on the road, we are listening to the new album. And it's really interesting to me that even though I don't particularly there's not a particular song that I'm passionate about or really love, I have found myself, 3 or 4 times in the last week, humming one of the songs to myself by just being exposed to it and being around it. I've got it and I cannot get it out of my head. Can you help me, please?
Well, what song is it first? Let's hear what it is.
Oh gosh, it's the Ophelia song.
Oh God, I cannot stop singing that song myself. That is, I have to tell you, Dave. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, 2 daughters.
Okay,
and
yeah.
I cannot get past the 3rd song. We just continue to rewind those first 3, and the first one is so good and dancey. Love it.
Yeah, it's so funny. And the reason I'm thinking about this is just how quickly things get in our heads. And you write on this in the book. You have a song in your head too, maybe even a whole playlist. If you just take a moment to listen, that music can drag you down, hold you back, and keep you small and scared. But it can also lift you up and fill you with courage, energy, and enthusiasm. And I think about just getting a song in our heads. And there's the fun, playful, we're listening to the popular album that came out. And then there's the real serious, the song that we get in our heads, good or bad, that shows up and influences how we show up, our relationships with people, and how we think about ourselves. It is super powerful, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely is. And it's something that we're most of the time not present to until we are. And I think that's the one of the big realizations for me. And as I talk about in the book, when I was on this outward bound journey, and I was really just, if I can say, I just wanted to break my leg. I just wanted to break my ankle. I didn't want to be there. It was day 1. And when that instructor came down and saw me in my yellow rain slicker, and I was crying and crying and crying, and it was snowing and all of the above, and she said to me, "What's going on in your head?" When I said to her, "Well, yeah, I'm singing this song by 9 Inch Nails," head like a hole, black as your soul. I'd rather die than give you control. And when she said to me, you better get another song in your head, it was the
Mm.
first time I actually literally put two and two together, that those things are connected. And the funny thing is, Dave, she probably was asking me, what's going on in your head? Like, are you full of self-doubt? Are you, she probably expected something much different than what I gave her, which is hilarious if I think back on it. But it was a very, very big wake up call for me, I'll say. Well, the first of many that have happened throughout my life, but I would say that was probably the first.
There's a chapter in your book titled Labels Are for Soup Cans, Not People. And it's a conversation with the reader about the labels that we tend to put on ourselves. And I thought before we get into maybe some of those labels and how we may shift them, I'm curious what's maybe us exploring like some of the labels we've put on ourselves over time. When you think about this, what's a label you've put on yourself that held you back?
Oh my goodness. I had the label of quote unquote, I am dumb. I am dumb for a very, very long time, too long. And that label came from some childhood experiences with dyslexia. Now it's a superpower. But my academics was very, very difficult for me from a very young age, in fact, spelling and all of that stuff. And so I took all of what I was seeing, feeling, and probably the extra help I was getting from tutors and whatnot, and concocted a story that I am dumb, that I was dumb. And when I tell you, I had that until I was 35, I'm not joking. I had that lie in my head until I was 35, which prevented me from going after opportunities and creating options for myself.
It's a powerful lie because
Yeah.
it held back so many things that you might have done sooner, differently, earlier in your career, but also in your life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I, my parents said to me, Claude, you haven't set up any options for yourself. And I think back to that time, well, I didn't set up any options because I didn't think I was worthy of that. I didn't think that a dumb
Ah,
person got to get options in life, got to make options. I mean, it sounds so silly now, but it's not. It's the lies we tell ourselves, that negative voice that goes around and around and around on repeat, on repeat, on repeat is so powerful.
clearly something shifted at some point based on where you are today, you writing this book, the work that you're doing, the stories you tell about your personal life and your family. What is it that changed?
Well, I will say I did finally find a very, very good therapist to go to when I was about 35 years old. And I was going through a big breakup in my life. So there was like, it was a watershed moment. It was kind of like a time in my life where it was really time to get rid of some stuff. Little did I know that that lie in my head was one of the biggest things that was holding me back. I didn't know that. I just thought I was dumb. It wasn't like a billboard saying, Claude, if you let go of this, you're going to be free, right? I didn't know that. And we did a lot of, it was a somatic therapist. So that's a lot of work in terms of how energy and emotions are stored in the body. And I saw her for quite a bit of time, I would say, probably 4 years off and on. And there was a lot of tapping, a lot of tapping exercises that we did. And at some point, it just came out that I felt unworthy of options or opportunities or love or fill in the blank, right? This is unfortunately a feeling that many people have. And
Yeah.
so once that came out, we were able to unpack the genesis of that. Where did that come from? I mean, I wasn't born like that. And lo and behold, one thing led to the other. And we went back to, being in second grade and having to be tutored already and being in a sophomore in high school and my biology teacher telling the class I was getting an F taking the SATs 3 times untimed and still getting a 1040, those things add up. And so, but we had to go and uncover all of that like an archaeologist.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, first of all. And it's so interesting looking back how it's so
Mhm.
much easier to see some of these lies we've told ourselves. And as I was thinking about what you were saying and reading the book, I was thinking like one of the lies I told myself early on in my life is I am shy. And
Mm.
like you, it's interesting now I think about what I would say today is more introversion, and I think about it as a
Mhm.
superpower and use it as a superpower. But I had this label of being shy, and it was something that held me back from relationships, from being more successful in doing things extracurricular in school and friendships and all of that, probably until like my late teens, early 20s. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I really sort of confronted that lie, which it was a lie, and shifted it in a way that helped it to work better for me and actually change that narrative. And I wouldn't be doing this show today. I wouldn't be doing anything I'm doing today if it hadn't been for me, like really looking at that and shifting that.
Yeah. Well, I love that that was your limiting belief, that was your lie, and here you are on a podcast. I mean, here you are certainly not shy. You are hosting a podcast that goes out to thousands of people
Right.
and showing up each and every hour that you do this. And I think that is remarkable. I really, really do. So I want to just say super kudos to you for going through that journey because it is a journey, right?
It
And
is.
I love how you landed on introversion because it's so valid. I say that I am a situational extrovert, right? Because
Yeah.
at work and when I'm on stage and all of that stuff, that's extroversion. But that's because of the situation I'm in. I prefer to be probably quiet a lot of the times. And, I get to be quiet on my commute to and from work, which is really special to me. That's where I kind of get to either
Mm.
prepare for my day or recharge from the day.
One of the things that one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you is like you and I have both in different ways struggled with the lies and the labels, and we all of course still do. And I think that that's actually so common. Like so many of us do struggle with our own labels. And what I know we can invite folks to do in this conversation is maybe take a few steps on how to start thinking about that and changing a little bit of that label. And I'm so glad that you mentioned therapy, Claude, because there is no substitute for getting the support from a good therapist or counselor to work through things if you have a label that you are finding is not working for you and is holding you back and you're not able to change it. And in addition to that, my hope is we can help maybe folks just to take a first step today of thinking like, okay, here's the label I have, and what might I do to start shifting that just a bit? And part of the invitation I hear from you in your work is just to stop treating the negative self-talk as gospel. And so often we hear the self-talk and we don't even think of a different way to think about it.
Well, I mean, that is it. And one of the things that, well, it's not one of the things, the thing I really am talking about in the book, especially in the first part, which is all about the you, right? It's who are you? You are the CEO of your life, but what's stopping you, right? And what what is so apparent is that unless we are present, we don't hear that voice that much, right? We just know it's there. Something is holding us back. Something is shrinking us. Something is permitting us to not speak out, not share ideas, not fill in the blank. And it's only when you are able to either work with a friend, a therapist, whomever, a me, a coach, and that person says, "What are you telling yourself right now?" Just like that
Mm.
instructor said to me on Outward Bound, "What is going on in your head?" And so when I'm able to say, and hopefully you'll find this in the book as well, when you are reading those words that I'm writing, what you're saying, what is the song in your head? What are you telling yourself right now? You need to get still. You need to get quiet. And then guess what? You will hear that voice because the voice is so loud. We just garble it up with all kinds of other junk, right? Throughout our day so we can get through. But once you hear that, and it's going to be something of, I am shy, I am dumb, I'm not worthy of love, no one wants me on their team, I never get picked, those types of things.
Yeah.
So when you can actually hear that, and what I ask people to do is write that down, whatever that is. I am dumb. Write that down. Then what I want everyone to do is try to find the evidence that it's true.
So, step one, identify it, get it down before you even are thinking about the like, is this true? Is it not? Whatever. But just what's the voice that's happening? What's the song in the head, to come back to that analogy, right? What's the song that I keep hearing? Write that down, identify that. And if you get that down, then you're confronting it, right?
Yeah. Well, you are confirming it. It's coming out of your head, right? It's coming out of your head.
Yeah.
And so only you know that that's what's going on in your head, right? I can't say, oh, actually, I heard something else show up. And then what I want people to do is try to find the evidence of that being true. So it could also be, I'm I'm not a good mom, and I'm not a good co-parent. I never have time, right? Or I seem to always prioritize my work and I'm not able to prioritize my children or my partner or whatever. Those are things that are going to be loud. And then you want to figure out, is that true? So for me, let's take me, I am dumb. Put that out on a piece of paper in one column. I am dumb. All right, let me see if I can find the evidence, Dave. I work for Gary Vaynerchuk. No, he wouldn't hire me if I was dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I've been at VaynerMedia for 11 years. And before that, I've always been employed. Okay, no, I'm not dumb there. People seem to want to talk to me. Okay, I'm not dumb there. So you have to, find I can't find any evidence, right? I'm not 18, 17. I didn't just take the SAT scores. I'm present. So no, there is no evidence that I can find that I am dumb. All right. If that is the truth, there is no evidence, then what is true? What am I going to replace that slogan with? Because once I take it out of my brain, you got to put something back in there, or else it's going to siphon that lie back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then the idea is, okay, well, then what is true? Okay, this is something that's very true. I am a different kind of learner. That is true. I already told you I'm dyslexic, and I know I learn very differently. I am a person who is extremely emotionally intelligent, and I've had to work to be more analytically intelligent. That is true. So now I'm trying to find things that are true, but that also they light me up in some way, shape, or form, right? To say to me, for me to say to me, well, Claude, you're not dumb. You just learn in different ways. Like, that's exciting to me. You can even hear it in my voice.
Yeah.
So that's where we need to get to.
So identify the label, find the evidence that confirms or the evidence that doesn't, as you just demonstrated. And then this is, by the way, an acronym. It's one of the reasons I love this framework in the book is it's the acronym is LIE. Label, internal evidence. And then the third part is evolve. What's the evolve step sound like?
So the evolve is what we just did, because we went through the evidence, right?
Yeah.
And the evolve is, now I'm going to use the new phrase. I'm a different kind of learner. I'm an emotionally intelligent person. I got to pick one of those, right?
Mm.
And whichever one I use, I need to make it a mantra. I need to put it on my laptop. I need to put it in my phone. I need to put it up on a sticky note on my bathroom mirror. I need to put it places so that that lie cannot come out again. I need to make sure I have a way to continuously feed my brain the truth. And so I said, okay, we'll put it in a mantra. I also say, put it to a song, whatever it is. You can do it to Billie Jean or you can do it to a Stone Temple Pilots song. It doesn't matter to me as long as it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
And that's the evolve. That's the, oh my God, okay, this is going to work because I'm going to say it repetitively, 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 and it's going to work. So that's what the evolution is.
I love it. Label, internal evidence, and then evolve it. Okay, so I'm curious about a couple things. First is that first step, the label. You and I can both see really clearly now, like what you said, I'm dumb, me saying I'm shy. Looking back, like it's really clear, like, oh gosh, that was a label, that was a lie all those years. And sometimes when we're in the middle of it, like if I went back 20, 30 years and was in the middle of it, sometimes we're so much in the middle of our own labels that we don't even see them. It's like the fish in water of asking about water. They wouldn't know any difference because they've had the label so long. How do you see it when you're so painted by the label that maybe you don't even think about another alternative?
This is where I don't think it's something to do alone. I really, really don't, unless you're pretty certain you know the label, and then you can do that list that I'm talking about. One column to see if you've got the evidence that the lie is true, and then the next column to get the real truth. But it's hard. Like I said, I had to go to, I went to therapy to understand why was I repeating the same patterns over and over and over again when I knew what was better for me, right? I knew, but I was like a magnet. I was attracted to things that weren't healthy for me. But I had to work with someone because I didn't want to be in that pain anymore. I really didn't. And so if you're doing this alone, which is totally fine, I would just ask that you really, really try to get into some kind of still state or a state when you're really agitated. So either get real still or find when you're really agitated and frustrated, what are you telling yourself? Aside from that person's a bozo, you're probably saying something negative about yourself. Capture that. Capture whatever it is, write it down. And then once you calm down, see if it's true. Does that fit? Are you just a frustrated, angry person, whatever that is? Then I need you to write it down and really simmer with it. Really, really see if it's true for you.
My friend Tom Henschel has a really beautiful analogy of painting the difference between coaching and therapy. And a lot of us as coaches, he says, if you're driving along the road and you see a pothole and you can drive around it, like that's a great thing to do, right?
Yeah.
And that's what coaching is. And he does this much better than I'm doing it. But he also says, like, if you're driving along and you keep running into the exact same pothole day after day after day, then it makes sense to stop and patch the pothole. And that's therapy. That's where working with a therapist would be really helpful. And the reason I'm thinking about this is because something really important you said a moment ago that I think is like so key on this is like, I keep seeing the same pattern. I keep seeing the same thing coming up that I know isn't working for me. And yet it's like I keep hitting the same pothole. And I think like that's a really powerful indicator that either it's time to do something, like you said, of sitting down when you're really still or agitated and really pay attention to that, or to like work with someone who can help support you in doing that. Like that's a great way to start to begin to emerge that label, because that's a sign that there's something there that just isn't working for you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And whether or not it's you figuring this out, a therapist, a coach, it doesn't matter. But you want to figure it out. I don't want anyone at 35 figuring it out if we can help it.
Yeah.
I don't because, uh, yes, I had a great life, up until I was 35, but also I did things that were very self-sabotaging and I missed out on opportunities that, I can look back and tell you what I missed out on. And it's not regret, not anymore, but it did make me sad there for a while because, I'm better than that. I'm better than telling myself I'm dumb. You're better than telling yourself you're shy. When we put those labels on ourselves, they are powerful. They are powerful, powerful labels that take some elbow grease to get off.
very few things in life are pure either ors, right? Like usually there's some mix of a both and. And when you when you're at that step of the evidence of writing down, like, okay, where is this true? Like, where am I dumb? Where am I shy? You're writing those things down, but you're also writing down the where is this not true? When you run into a situation where you're writing stuff down and you can't find the counter narrative, you can't find as many of the, maybe there's like 10 of the confirmations and there's the one or two that is the different narrative. What do you do in that situation if the evidence seems overwhelming to you on the other side?
You mean if the evidence to the lie actually seems true?
Yeah.
Okay. So I definitely understand that. So what I would do at that point is write everything down. Write everything down. Still, all of the evidence that you're dumb, just write it down, and then walk away. When you're in another frame of mind, when you're in another place, I would have yourself and your good friend sit down and bounce those off of him or her. I really would, because
Mm.
we're not able to see our reflection. People see our reflection. We only hear the nasty, negative stuff that we say to one another, that we say to our brains. But our friends, someone who is not in our head, can really say to you, Claude, that is so silly. You are not dumb. And then I would say to that friend, yeah, but, and they would say, yeah, but what? You've been an advertising executive for the last 20 years. Yeah, but what? Right? You need someone to be able to bounce off of. I really firmly believe that this is not work. If you're stuck, this is not really work you can do alone. And I don't want anyone to give up because they're like, okay, well, my column is all, it's all true. I am dumb, right? I don't want you to have to give up on that. It's not, we're better than that. We deserve to really feel like we can thrive, not just survive in this world. And that work has to be done by us.
Isn't it interesting how we say things to ourselves that are like so disempowering, negative, hateful sometimes that we would never say to any other human being. And yet so many of us are like,
Oh, yeah.
willing and able to just say that to ourselves. And like part of it's just that it is just part of the normal human experience of living in this world of like
Yeah.
recognizing that and also knowing that's normal and we can also
Yeah.
shift from it.
Yes, exactly. I love that you just said that, Dave, because there's nothing abnormal about this. We
Yeah.
all of us have somewhat of an imposter syndrome, somewhat of a limiting belief. And I don't know if it comes from childhood. I don't know where, I can only talk about where mine comes from. But we deserve to get out of this hamster wheel, my friend. We really, really do. It's
Yeah.
not what we're meant for greater things. And I'm sure the Greeks went through this. I'm sure the Egyptians went through this. I'm sure every civilization has gone through this, but it just seems so loud right now, right
Yeah.
here, right now, with the generations that I certainly work with.
I can't remember if someone told me this on the podcast or I read it somewhere. So maybe someone will write in and remind me if it was on the podcast. But I heard this wonderful invitation a while back on I was thinking about the evolve step and like the changing the narrative and what does it look like when it's different. And this really nice invitation that if you don't think something could be true for you today, when you're thinking about evolving, could you imagine a future where it could be true about you? Like, could you imagine a year or 2 or 5 years from now where you could show up and have a conversation and not be fearful, or show up in an intelligent way in a conversation, whatever like the label is? And I find that to be really a nice invitation when I'm working with someone and supporting them on to reframe the narrative a little bit of just thinking like, don't even worry about today, tomorrow, next week, but could you see this maybe being true for you in the future? And sometimes that's just enough to be able to
Mhm.
like get that nudge over and to actually articulate what the evolve sounds like.
Yeah. Yes. That right there is, I just want to say bingo on that. And again, where we are as a civilization, I would say in this day and age is we're still grappling post-COVID with a lot of alienation, isolation, people feeling lonely. We know that, you've seen some of the studies now that talk about men of a certain age are finding that they really don't have a friend, or
Yeah.
maybe they have one friend, but they really don't have friends to hang out with. There's all this stuff going on right now in our society. And for whatever reason, it's there. But I really think it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a massive village for us to turn this corner and start to believe in ourselves and start to believe in others. And that is going to take something called kindness, vulnerability, compassion, humility. It's going to take a lot of emotional intelligence skills to do. And we can do that. We can do that. We are wired to belong. All human beings are wired to belong. We're supposed to be in community with one another. And I think this is the time where we need to start being present and intentional about getting back to that.
Claude, you are literally at the heart of an organization that stands for great culture, excellence, heart, people. I mean, so many of us have admired Gary Vee's work for many years and his message about people and culture and all the things, and so many examples in the book of that. And I'm curious, having been in this leadership role and now put together this book to teach others how to do this better, over the last few years, what have you changed your mind on?
That's so great. I just love that question. I've changed my mind on patience. That is what I will say. And that is due to working with Gary Vaynerchuk. What I understand now is that it's a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I used to think you can get from A to Z and you didn't have to do anything else. And now I know what it's like to actually be, again, I'll use the word intentional, and to be patient, setting things up so that you have the payoff in time, right? But not immediate, and not look for it immediately because it's not going to be there. And so playing the long game is something that he taught me, I would say a year into my experience with him. And that has really evolved. And I like it. I like the idea that patience is a long game now. I really like that. It kind of like, in a way, let me off the hook. It gave me more time to show up, to prove to myself X, Y, Z, whatever that was. So that's one of the things I would say has changed.
Claude Silver is the author of Be Yourself at Work, the groundbreaking power of showing up, standing out, and leading from the heart. Claude, thank you so much for your work.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate you.
And you. If this conversation was helpful to you, 3 related episodes I'd recommend. One of them is episode 232, How to Tame Your Inner Critic. Tara Moore was my guest on that episode. I have referred this conversation to so many folks over the years, and I always hear how helpful it is of thinking about how to respond to that voice that we all have in our heads, that inner critic. We all know it. We all hear it. Tara in that conversation invites us to think about that inner critic, give it a name, and actually to approach it in a much more helpful way so that it can work for us and not against us. Episode 232. If you find your inner critic is chattering at you a lot in a way that's not helpful, it's a wonderful conversation to start with. Also recommended episode 715, How to Stand Up for Yourself. Sunita Saw was my guest on that episode. We talked about defiance, and not just defiance in the way that oftentimes we think about it, but defiance as far as how we can actually bring that in a healthy way into our work, into our careers, into our organizations, and how to think about how that shows up in a professional capacity. There's so many wonderful invitations she makes, and also fascinating the common patterns that we tend to follow, almost all of us, when we think about defying and ultimately do defy something that is important to us. Episode 715 for that. And then finally, I'm thinking about the recent conversation with Muriel Wilkins, episode 756, What It Feels Like When You Don't Belong. Speaking of voices that are in our heads, one of the common ones that comes up, especially when we move into a new role, a new position, new opportunity, is that feeling like, oh gosh, I worked so hard to get into this position and now it feels like I don't belong here for whatever reason. Muriel and I talked about what do you do when you have that feeling? And perhaps just as importantly, what can you do as a tactical next step that's going to help you to move through it and move past it. Episode 756 for that. Her book, Leadership Unblocked, fabulous on that and so many other topics. All of those episodes you can find on the coachingforleaders.com website. If you haven't set up your free membership before, I'm inviting you to do so today at coachingforleaders.com. It's going to give you access to the entire library of episodes that I've aired since 2011, searchable by topic, but it's also going to give you access to a bunch of other benefits inside of the free membership. And one of those benefits is access to all of my book and interview notes. Almost every time that I am reading a book, I am taking notes. I am highlighting the relevant sections that I think are going to be most helpful for the conversations and the interviews that emerge here on the podcast, but also things that don't always emerge in our conversations, but that I've taken notes on. And I post those for almost every interview, as I am today with Claude. That's one of the benefits of getting involved with the free membership is you have full access to my book and interview notes. It's a PDF download on almost all the episodes, the ones that are available, to be able to grab for your own learning and growth and reflect on some of the things we've talked about in this conversation. One of the benefits of free membership, if you haven't set it up before, go over to coachingforleaders.com and set up your free membership today, and you'll be in with us on getting access to all those resources. Coaching for Leaders is edited by Andrew Kroger. Production support is provided by Sierra Priest. Next Monday, I'm glad to welcome Eileen Collins to the show. Eileen was the first woman to both pilot and command the space shuttle and command any U.S. space mission. We're having a conversation about leading with poise when the stakes are high. Join me for that chat with Eileen. Have a great week and see you back on Monday.